Right, question 2. This is better. After all those calculations and all the things, define diffusion. Not very nice. It's only worth a mark though. So diffusion, just a definition: movement of molecules from high concentration to low concentration, or down a concentration gradient. Pretty straightforward. So movement of molecules or particles or whatever, movement of molecules from a region of higher concentration to lower concentration, or you could say down a concentration gradient. What you can't say is from a high gradient to a low gradient, because that doesn't make sense. So that's quite a common wrong answer. And here's a flatworm. You know about flatworms. Planaria. The main thing about flatworms is they are flat, which provides most of the answers really. So although it's multicellular, simple diffusion provides adequate gas exchange. So why simple diffusion is adequate in this case? Right, there's 2 marks here, so we need to make 2 kind of separate points. And let's go with, it's flat, and so it would have a large surface area to volume ratio. That's pretty straightforward. So flat shape gives a large surface area to volume ratio, and that will mean more diffusion of gases. And also another common answer is if something's very thin, very flat, then diffusion distance isn't very far. So that's our second mark. So flat shape has short diffusion distance. So very common answers used in a lot of exam questions. The final phylum Annelida, so a different class of organisms, contains both the earthworm and the lugworm. You've dissected an earthworm. The lugworms are ones that you get at the seaside, burying below the sand, and you might have mentioned them when you did oxygen dissociation curves. So you know a little bit about lugworm, hopefully. Where gas exchange occurs in the earthworm, well, it doesn't have lungs or anything like that. When you dissected it, hopefully you didn't find any lungs. We just get gas exchange on the surface. So if you just got a worm there, just from the outside and the surface, so body surface. And then part 2. A fully grown lugworm can reach 23 centimetres. Pretty frightening actually when you see them if you dig one up. They're pretty fat at their centimetres. No, 1 centimetre. And there's the outside and a transverse section, a cut section. So what have we got here? We've got these gills, external gills. That's of interest to us. We've got, there's the body surface that we were getting diffusion across. So remember, diffusion was just in this body surface. We've got it telling us these capillaries, and we've got some blood vessels. So that's what the diagram is showing us. Explain how these adaptations shown by the lugworm have enabled it to grow to such a large size. So how the structural adaptation, so really this diagram is showing us what we need to know. So the first thing we mentioned was these external gills, and they're quite kind of feathery, and they're providing a large surface area for diffusion. That's pretty straightforward. So let's mention external gills. Increase the surface area for diffusion. And there is a cheeky little mark there. There's 4 here, so this second mark is saying you're going to get more oxygen absorbed or increase in the rate of diffusion. So it's a mark that you might miss unless you were thinking, right, how do I get 4 marks here? So this increases the rate, I'll put it in capital letters there, rate of diffusion, or alternatively you could say more oxygen can be absorbed. So there's 2 marks, and then the last 2 are just noticing these 2 things that we pointed out in the second diagram, blood vessels and the capillaries. So let's start off with capillaries. So capillaries, lots of them, and they are right on the outside near the body surface. So these are again providing a really short diffusion distance. So they provide a short diffusion distance. If you were thinking there was lots of them and large surface area of them, then I would think that would be a sensible thing to say. It's not in the mark scheme, but I would think that would be reasonably sensible. And these blood vessels, what do they do? Well, if we want to keep diffusion going, if we want to maintain the gradient, then we need to take away the blood that's just had oxygen absorbed into it and bring the old blood, the used blood with less oxygen in to the surface, and that will maintain the gradient. So just like in your lungs, or you've looked at a range of animals, if you want diffusion to continue, then maintain that gradient somehow, and our transport system for blood does just that. So blood vessels maintain steep concentration gradient, or you might have said removes the oxygen to the body and brings low oxygen blood to the surface. 8 marks. More straightforward, that question.